and they led him away to the high priest's house. I followed at a distance. I didn't know what to do. I was afraid. Have you ever been so afraid and confused that you had no idea what to do? That's how I felt. I watched as they mocked him, they beat him, they questioned him. No matter what they did to him, he showed no resistance. And I watched as 3 asked me if I was with him, as if I knew him. And the rooster crows 3 times, right after I have sworn to these people that I never knew him. I had no idea who he was. And I wished in that moment that the mountains and the rocks could have fallen on me. I could have just been completely covered because I denied him. If he said he was going to build his church upon me, how could he do so if I'm the person who's denying him? I couldn't even be strong enough to admit that I knew him. I was afraid for my life. What would my life even be without him? I was ashamed. I fell on my face, wept, and I cried loudly. How could he ever forgive me? How could I ever forgive myself? I had deserted him. And what good is I? When he needed me most, I failed him. I left him alone to face his accusers.
And then early in the morning, a group of the religious leaders brought this person called Jesus of Nazareth to me. They wanted me to judge him. When I told them to try him according to their law, they reminded me that it was not legal for them to put any man to death. It's funny how they wanted us to fix their problem. They can be so proper at times. They accused him of trying to become king. I questioned him by asking him if he were a king. He replied, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would not my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews? But now is my kingdom not from hence." I asked him if he were a king. And he answered, "You say that I am a king. To this end I was born, and for this cause I come into this world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone that is of the truth heareth my voice." I could find no fault in him. How could I? He seemed to possess a certain quality and power that I could not explain. As far as I was concerned, he wasn't innocent of any wrongdoing. I told the Jews this, and I offered to release him. It was their custom to release a criminal at the time of the Passover. But the Jews refused Jesus and asked for Barabbas. Barabbas, a known robber. They asked to release him. So I had Jesus beaten, and the soldiers made this crown of thorns and they placed it on his head. And then they put a purple robe around him. Then I presented him to the Jews, telling them that I found no fault with this man named Jesus. But they cried, "Crucify him! Crucify him! According to our law, he must die, because he has called himself the Son of God." I was terrified by this. Suppose this man was the Son of God. He might strike me dead. I went back in and asked this Jesus who he was, but he would not answer me. I told him that I had the power to release him or to crucify him. And then he replied, "You could have no power at all against me, unless it had been given to you from above." I pleaded with the Jews to let me release him, because I found no fault with him. And they said I was of no friend to Caesar if I let Jesus go. That did it. I would not be accused of being disloyal to Caesar. I asked for a basin of water, and I washed my hands of the whole affair, telling the Jews that this man's blood would not be on my hands. They were more than willing to take the responsibility for his death. I handed Jesus over to them, and they led him away to be crucified.
I watched as they led him away towards Golgotha. He stumbled at the load of the cross that he carried, but when I looked into his eyes, I knew he was carrying much more than the cross. My heart ached for him, but what could I do?
I had one allegiance, and that was to Caesar. Almost everyone in around Judea had heard of Jesus of Nazareth. He was a great teacher and healer, so they said. But the religious leaders of Jerusalem were afraid of him. When they brought him to Pilate to be tried, Pilate found no fault with him. Pilate wanted to release him. But the people were loudly crying for his crucifixion. A mob had gathered outside of Pilate's palace, and the mob was in a state of frenzy. It would have taken an army to quiet them down. I think Pilate was afraid of the power of Jesus, but more afraid of being accused of being disloyal to Caesar. Pilate finally let the people have their way, and the other, having Jesus scourged, sent him off to be crucified, and I was in charge of his crucifixion.
I watched as they nailed him to the cross and placed him between the two thieves that hung there and were dying. And as he died, my dreams died. He was my Lord and Messiah. He told us that he would always be with us, but there he was dying right in front of us. And I've denied him. I've forsaken him. I didn't even have the chance to ask for his forgiveness. And now that he was dying and leaving alone, what am I going to do about it?
I had a sign made to be placed over his head. It said, "Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews." The Jews were unhappy with the wording, but I would not change it. I believed he was a king.
As a Roman officer, I had seen many crucifixions and indeed had been in charge of many. Crucifixion was a cruel and ugly death, and I assumed this one would be like all the others. But there was something about this man Jesus. He was indeed different. He refused the vinegar mixed with gall, which was to help deaden the pangs of suffering. It was as if he had to suffer and experience the pain. He never once complained. Most criminals cursed and yelled, not Jesus. Religious rulers and some of the Roman soldiers mocked him as he hung on the cross. They shouted insults and insisted that he save himself according to his claim, and instead of becoming angry, he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Never in all of Rome had I ever witnessed such love and forgiveness. I wondered how someone hanging on a cross could possibly forgive those who tormented and tortured him. And suddenly, about the 6th hour, the sun disappeared and there was total darkness. What could this mean? The darkness lasted for 3 hours, and finally, Jesus gave a loud moan and died. Then the earth began to shake, and the rocks tumbled and fell. Everyone was terrified, including me. As a soldier, I am afraid of nothing. But there was entirely different, as if the gods had pulled out all the stops and were showing how displeased they were with us. How can anyone fight the gods? And then, as if a great light dawned upon me, I realized that this Jesus must have been someone extraordinary. He must be the son of the one true God. Not the gods we worship in Rome, but the Jehovah God that the Israelites talk about and believe in so strongly. I shuddered to think what kind of punishment this God might send upon us. Like Pilate, I wish that I could have washed my hands of this whole mess. This was one crucifixion that I wish I had no part in. Jesus of Nazareth was no ordinary man. He was the Son of God.
This week has been very different. A man named Jesus came to town. I've heard he called himself Christ, Son of God, King of the Jews. Although the rest of the priests thought he was an imposter. We had him arrested, and then Pilate convicted him. He was to be crucified today. When I awoke this morning, there was a heaviness in the air. I was in the holy place performing my ritual duties, and it became very, very dark. A while later, the earth shook. The curtain to the most holy place was torn in two. I thought it was going to die, but that everything felt different. That heaviness in the air was gone. What happened?
And then it was over. He was dead. What's going to happen to me and the other disciples? The scribes and the Pharisees, are they going to try to kill us too?
After his death, the Jews came requesting a guard to be placed at the tomb. They were afraid someone would steal his body. This man, Jesus, was more than an ordinary man. And I knew it. Although I washed my hands of him, I cannot forget him. He plagues me day and night. I allowed a mob to convince me to condemn an innocent man. Even my own wife came to me. She had a dream. She told me to have nothing to do with this man named Jesus. She told me that he was a good man, but I did not listen. I did not listen to my wife. I did not listen to my feelings. Instead, I caved in to peer pressure of how it would look to the Jews, and to get them out of my hair, and to get them just to be quiet and to leave me alone. I handed this man named Jesus, an innocent man, over to them. I condemned an innocent man, and that knowledge is something nothing can wash away. I'll go to my grave knowing that I let an innocent man go to his.